Alright, so this is actually video 11. Sorry I said 10 was the last one, but it's not. So I'm going to read the question and then you can answer, and then I will say the answer. You're doing a great job. This should be the last or second last one, depending on how long it takes us to get through this one. Okay? Weld type made in a cross-sectional shape of a triangle. Fillet weld. Device used to maintain the correct position relationship between joint members required by print specifications. Fixture. What's this one? Blank welding uses a steam compressed air or an inert gas directed over the heater element, which then flows out to the nozzle and onto the source of the material being bonded. Hand-fed. An atom or group of atoms that is not electrically neutral but instead carries a positive or negative charge. It's an ion. A well-designed electrode holder will be well balanced to reduce excessive fatigue while welding and will blank. Secure and release electrodes easily. A blank test is a destructive test which a specimen is broken by a single blow, and the energy absorbed in breaking it is measured in foot-pounds. FTLB. Foot-pounds. This is a toughness test. A blank welding machine is a welding machine that produces DC current only. A generator. When using the American Welding Society classification system, the last digit on the electrode indicates the composition of the flux on an electrode. Shielding metal arc welding often continues for long periods of time. True or false? False. Impact test specimen that is supported as a vertical cantilever beam and struck at the free end projecting above the holding vise is an IZOD. IZOD. A weld discontinually formed when a weld metal does not completely fuse with a substance, the base metal or previous weld beads. Incomplete fusion. The voltage across the welding arc. Arc voltage. A gas that has been heated by an arc at least at partially ionized condition, enabling it to conduct an electrical current. Arc plasma. The distance from the tip of the welding electrode to the weld pool should be, or is called, the arc length. The axial force developed by an arc plasma is the arc force. The deflection of an arc from its normal path of magnetic forces is an arc blow. Which of the following is correct? Watts watts equals volts times amps. Is that true or false? Watts equals volts times amps. That is true. The welding cable should be significantly long to reach the workstation. True or false? True. Is the following shielded metal arc welding electrode is designed as a low hydrogen electrode? An E7018. True or false? That is true. What's the recommended eye protection shade number for welding helmet lens used when welding with a 1/8 or 8-inch, 8/8 of an inch electrode? Number 10 lens shade. What duty cycle rating is required for a welding machine that will operate at its maximum rating for 6 minutes continually during a 10-minute period? 60%. Heat temperature presses and softens the metal by heating it to a suitable temperature, holding it at that temperature, and cooling it at a suitable rate. Annealing. In plane figures, the intersection of two lines, in building steel, L-shaped structural steel of two equal or unequal widths. This is an angle. A lot of words for angle. A welding technique where the heat is concentrated enough to penetrate the complete thickness of the workpiece and form a hole in the leading edge of the weld pool, which gets filled by the molten metal as the arc moves forward. This is called keyhole welding. You're doing great. Keep going. Generation of stable voltage regardless of ampage output produced by the welder power supply. Constant potential. What is concave? It means it's curved inward. This is a device which holds sections of pipe or fittings before tack welding. A pipe jig. A metallic metal made up of two or more elements where at least one is metal. This is an alloy. Unit of measure for electricity that expresses the quantity or number of electrons flowing through the conductor per unit of time. Amperage. A blank type wire feeder. The electrode is fed through the welding cable and pulled by a device rollers located in the welding fun. That is pull. Drilled hole that does not pass through the metal. Blind hole. Rivet with hollow shank that joins two parts with access from the side. Blind rivet. Group of welding processes in which metal joined by heating the filler metal at temperature greater than 840 degrees Fahrenheit, but less than the melting point of the base metal. Brazing. Graphic symbol that shows brazed locations on specifications on prints. Brazing symbol. Line that shows internal features or avoids showing continuous features. Break line. lack of ductility in a metal, broken out section, partial section view which appears to have been broken out of the object. Brittleness. The angular cut on the edge of the base material for welding is a bevel. Current flow in an electrical circuit where the direction and therefore direction of the electron flow continually reverses itself, usually at a predetermined frequency. Alternating current. Welding process that uses oxygen combined with fuel to sustain a flame that generates the heat necessary for welding. Oxy-fuel welding. Process of building worn surfaces by depositing several layers of beads. Padding. Welding process that uses an arc shielded by gas from within the electrode. Flux cord welding. What serves as a medium of transmission? Conduct. The blank angle is the angle formed between the electrode and the part measured perpendicular to the direction of travel. This is the work angle. A component of welding circuit through which current is conducted and which terminates at the arc. Arc welding electrode. When welding, the operator sees by light from the arc. American Welding Society is what identifies using the classification system for electrodes. True or false? True. Ability of a metal to be deformed by compressive forces without developing defects. Malleability. Correct arc length is approximately 1/8 inch, so 1/8 of an inch. Quality which resists forces causing the metal to bend or deflect in the direction in which the load is applied is its bending strength. Welding is commonly used for connecting blank welding is commonly used for connecting PVC and ABS pipe in irrigation applications and plumbing. This is called solvent welding. I can do that. I've done that to put my toilet in. Liquid penetrant tests cannot be performed on materials with excessively blank surfaces. Porous. The recommended position of a welder for horizontal and vertical welding is the most comfortable one. Blank of metals is an important property because structural metals must be able to deform and give warning of impending failure. This is the toughness of the metal. Not the toughness of the welder, but of the metal. Because we all know you're super tough. A blank is a device used for measuring the size and shape of a weld. Weld gauge. Weld joint formed when two members are lapped over one another. Lap joint. Not to be confused with a lap dance. Rivets with shank at 12 millimeters or half an inch or greater diameter. These are large rivets. Large rivets are 12 millimeters or half an inch or bigger. Metal identification test that checks for the presence of iron in a metal is magnetic test. Impurity or foreign substance forced into a molten puddle during a welding process. Inclusion. The decrease in the length of workpieces as a result of friction welding. Friction upset. The property of matter whereby any physical body persists in the state of rest or uniform motion until acted upon by the same external force. Inertia. Metal identification test that breaks the metal sample to check for ductility and grain size. It's a fracture test. Let's get some more papers here. You're doing amazing. Keep going. We're almost there. Early method to join metals that requires two pieces of metal to be heated and pressed and hammered together to develop the metallurgical bond between the two. I said that word wrong. This is called forge welding. What is AWS stand for? American Welding Society. What welding process are flux shielding and gas shielded methods of? Arc welding. Colorless gas that is highly combustible when mixed with oxygen, unstable at pressure above 103 kPa or 15 psi. This is acetylene. A flux for submerged arc welding that causes changes in the weld metal composition that depends on the welding parameters used, especially voltage. Active flux. Supplementary symbol indicated by a horizontal line or arc parallel to the weld symbol, which specifies the shape of the completed weld. Contour symbol. An electrode that melts and provides metal to fill the joint. Type of electrode. This is a consumable electrode. Spacer that provides proper opening of the weld joint and becomes part of the filler metal during welding. Consumable insert. Supplementary symbol indicated by square on the opposite side of the symbol of a groove weld on a reference line. Consumable insert supplementary weld symbol. Combining metals with elements in an environment leading to the deterioration of the metal. Corrosion. What's convex mean? Curved outward. Think of the axe as going out, so that's Convex is curved outwards. Convex is spelled C-O-N-V-E-X, so that's curved outward. The X is pushing it out. Oh, these two are stuck together. There we go. Weld joint formed when joint members are positioned at approximate 90-degree angle with the weld joint at the outside of the joint members. Corner joint. Enlarged and recessed hole with square shoulders. Counter bored hole, as opposed to being just bored, which means that you'd rather be doing something else. A composite filler metal electrode consisting of a core of a metal rod to which covering sufficient to provide a slag under the weld bead has been applied. The covering may contain covering materials, providing such functions as shielding from the ambient air, cleansing the weld metal, arc stabilization, and being a source of metallic addition to the weld. This is called a covered electrode. That was a big one. A depression in the weld face that is the termination of a weld bead. So depression just means in something that goes in the weld face that is the end of a weld bead. Crater. Final weld pass deposited. Cover pass. The mass or length of electrode melted in a unit of time. Melting rate. Shortest distance from the face of a fillet weld to the weld root after welding. Actual throat. Blank is the FCAW variation in which shielding gas is provided exclusively by the flux core within the electrode. FCAW-S. The recommended weave pattern for a beginner welder doing downhand welding is blank. Circular. A second pass should never be done if blank. The slag has not been removed. Correct oxygen and fuel pressure will vary within the... Oh, it's a stupid one. All answers listed. A chipping hammer is also used to remove slag. Never use gas burning equipment without approved blank in the area. Fire extinguisher. Connectors for oxygen hoses have blank threads. Right-handed. The fuel with best qualities for welding and cutting is acetylene. Define fusion. This means melting metals together. The temperature of an electric welding arc is about, holy crap, that's hot, 9,000 degrees Fahrenheit. How does one determine the number of watts consumed? Well, when my plate's empty. No? Multiply volts by amperages. So W5 V3A. How does one determine the number of watts consumed? Multiply the volts by the amperages. W5 V3A. Math shouldn't have letters in it, just say. Welding tables should be made of blank. Metal. Types of welding electrodes other than those used for welding mild steel and those used for blank are all answers listed. I hate it when they do that. They don't give me any answers. They just say all answers listed. All right. There we go. We had two stuck together. Consumable gases were first used in welding in what year? Or what century, I guess? 1800s. What type of current is produced by an inverter? AC. Oh, dropping stuff. Here we go. All right. The type of filler metal transfer that can be used with GMAW process are all of the above answers listed. An electrode is a blank electrode is an electrode that does not melt and becomes part of the weld. Non-consumable. Argon and helium are shielding gases most commonly used in blank process. GTAW. A blank angle is an angle at which the electrode is held to the joint during welding. Electrode. Blank is a superheated gas capable of conducting an electric arc and is typically considered the fourth state of matter because it does not have an exact properties of a solid, liquid, or gas. Plasma. When properly applied, blank examination is a reliable method for detecting discontinuous open to the surface of a open to the surface of the workpiece. Liquid penetrant. Voltage is a measure of blank. Electrical pressure. Almost there, keep going. Suitable arc welders for farm use are all of the above answers. A burn through is generally preceded by a increase in spark activity. True or false? True. An organization of people and agencies interested in promoting welding is the AWS. Types of polarity on DC welders include both reversed and straight. When pushing the puddle, the size of the pool should be kept blank. Constant. A weld placed in a joint created by a 90-degree angle is a blank weld. Fillet. When welding, the flux on an electrode, do whatever you want. It says all answers listed. The first step on oxyacetylene welding is to control the blank. The puddle. The best distance between a cone and a puddle when fusion welding is 1/8 of an inch. The best torch angle for flat welding is 45 degrees. A blank test is a destructive test constructed by saw cutting a small notch in the welding specimen, followed by breaking it with a hammer blows. This is a nick break. With heating tool welding, and blank typically controls the heat output on the heating element. Rheostat. I could be saying that wrong. The blank is a metal. If the blank of a metal is the resistance or deformation, permanent deformation, indentation or scratching. Indentation or scratching. The blank of a material is the resistance or to deformation, like indentation or scratching. This is the hardness. What type of current is produced by a transformer? AC. What type of current is produced by a transformer rectifier? DC. So A comes before D. So in a transformer, it's AC. And then transformer rectifier, when that adds another thing, so it goes down the alphabet. So that's a D instead of an A to start it. So DC. PAC equipment is usually classed as handheld, portable, or mechanized. Blank welds have 3 variables that affect weld quality: clamping, pressure, current level, and hold time. These are called spot welds. Oh, we're almost done. You can see the bottom of the thing. You're doing great. Ability of a metal to resist indentation. Hardness. Supplementary symbol indicated by darkened radius on the reference line opposite the weld symbol specified. Filler metal deposited on one side must completely penetrate through to the other side of the weld. Melt through symbol. Acetylene can be used in any tip. True or false? That is false. Steel with a carbon range of 0.045 to 0.075 is high carbon steel. So if we think 45 to 75%, 75 is a good on a test, so that's a high carbon steel. So that's a high number, 0.75. The portion of a base metal adjacent to the weld metal whose mechanical properties or microstructure have been changed due to the heat of welding. The heat affected zone. To prevent the loss of certain alloying elements, blank. Add a deoxidizer to the filler wire. True or false? Materials that are round and covered in rust require less preheat flame. That is false. True or false? Chrome plating causes splatter to stick to the tip, prolonging cleanup. False. True or false? The maximum safe open circuit voltage for welders is 80 volts. True. True or false? Alternators can be smaller in size and lighter in weight than generators and still produce the same amount of power. So alternators are smaller in size than generators, have the same power. That is true. True or false? Goggles or other suitable eye protection must be used for frame cutting. True. Protect those eyeballs. More people use the oxy-fuel cutting torch than any other welding process. True. High gas flow rates equal waste shielding gases. The correct flow rate of shielding gas can be set by checking welding guides. The equipment for blank is more likely to be automated. FCAW and SAW. What do welders' helpers do? Clean slag from welds and help position weldments. The blank, the density of the gas, the blank will be the flow rate required for equal arc protection. So this is like, where does higher and lower go? The blank, the density of gas, the blank will be the flow rate required for equal arc protection. So the first one's lower and then higher. The lower the density of the gas, the higher will be the flow rate required for equal arc penetration. Blank relies on capillary action to draw filler metal into the joint, whereas blank does not need capillary action. Brazing and braze welding. So brazing relies on capillary action to draw filler metals into the joint, whereas braze welding does not need capillary action. The advantage of blank welding is that a variety of metal types and metal thicknesses can be joined with one machine. Shield metal arc. The amount of reactive gas required to produce the desired effects is quite small. True or false? The amount of reactive gas required to produce a desired effect is quite small. That is true. Blank welding can be used to weld metal ranging in thickness from thin gauge sheet metal to heavy plate by making only a few changes in the welding setup. Gas metal arc. Slight changes in welding gun angle can be used to control the weld as the groove spacing changes. True or false? That one's true. True or false? When using BCUP, so it's capital BC, small letter U, and then big letter P, silver brazing alloys on clean copper, it's necessary to use flux. That's false. So another true false. In silver brazing, using an acetylene torch will reduce the possibility the alloy will overheat. That is false. True or false? Hot rolled steel has a thin copper layer which is formed during the rolling process. This is false. Shortest distance from the face of the weld to the weld root minus any conductivity after welding is effective throat. Electricity in motion in an electric current. Dynamic electricity. The percentage of time during a specified test period, usually 10 minutes, that the power source can be operated at a rate output without overheating. This is called the duty cycle. Better than duty in a diaper. The duty cycle. The practice of connecting a building structure or mechanics metallic body to the earth ground. Bonding system protected by bleeding electrical current to the ground should the device or building become electrically live. This is called electrically bonded. All right, you're almost there. Keep going. This is the last few questions. Definition: the ability of a metal to return to its original size and shape after loading and unloading. Elastic deformation. The length of unmelted electrode extending beyond the end of the contact tube. Electrode extension. Properties of metals that are directly related to molecular composition and penetrating to the chemical reactivity of metals and the surrounding environment. It's a lot of big words. It's called chemical properties. C-shaped structural steel used in conjunction with other structural shapes as support members or combined to serve as an I-beam. This is called a channel. Impact test specimen supported horizontally between two anvils with a pendulum allowing to strike opposite the notch. Charpy. C-H-A-R-P-Y. Charpy. Sloped edge of an angle running from surface to side. Chamfer. C-H-A-M. Chamfer. F-E-R. Chamfer. Slope edge of an object running from surface to side. Chamfer. Metal identification test that identifies metal by the shape of its chips. A chip test. Sounds yummy, but I doubt it is. Metal identification testing using chemicals which react when placed on certain types of metals. Chemical test. Metal heated to liquid state and poured into a mold where it cools and resolidifies. This is a cast. Alright, that's the end of this video. There's one more video after this. It's just a short one, and then you're done.